Call to order the Gateway Board of School Directors Study Session Meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Bonnie.
Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Here.
Mr. Gottman.
Here.
Dr. Kalkstein.
Here.
Mr. Lapsevich.
Here.
Mr. McIntyre.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Here.
Mrs. Warning.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Great. Do we have anybody sign up, Bonnie, for comments from?
Not in advance.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to agenda items?
I asked about the list on the way in, but I must have missed it.
Okay. You can speak, Donna.
Hi, from last meeting, my name is Donna Bernstein. I am the president of the Gateway Band Boosters and a parent of a senior, sophomore, and an 8th grader. And so we had a lot of discussion last time about the trailer and the pickup truck. And I think I talked to Mr. Cerrucci several times, and I know Mr. Helchi's talked to Mr. Short, I think Mr. Schott, and Mr. Brown. And so I think what we'd like to do is go sort of back and just remove the request to fund any part of the trailer. We as a booster organization will pay for the trailer ourselves, but we do request that the school district buy the larger pickup truck so that we can buy the gooseneck trailer. As Mr. Helchi said in his email today that I hope maybe you've all had a chance to read so far, and even from a logistical standpoint in getting to the places where we go, that was part of Mr. Brown and Mr. Helchi's discussion, was that gooseneck trailer makes a big difference in getting that around and moving it. And then we wouldn't have to rent the extra truck, and it would also just help the band in general. So if the school district would consider buying the larger pickup truck, we would fully fund the trailer ourselves.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Burns while she's here?
Did you get any more bids for the trailer?
That was on us.
The 46 foot, I think, was the district bid, right?
The one that's on the agenda, that we only received one bid from the trailer, and I want to say it was like 21,000.
Yeah.
That's listed for that.
And so what we're gonna do is, I know there's some discussion on the side, we're gonna go back and reassess exactly whether it's the 38 foot, and then maybe we have to remeasure it and some other stuff, and we will make sure it is. And then if we think it is the cost of over the 20,000, we'll make sure we work back with Mr. Schott to go out for the 3 bids to make sure, but we would still fund it, but make sure we follow the policy on the 3 bids if it was gonna be more than 20, based on the size.
Well, as long as the specifications we have, I mean, you delay the process by going on. We've already gone through the process.
That's if we get the 46, but if we were actually going something smaller and bigger than the 38, I think we talked about at one point, because I think the gooseneck, we think that was a discussion, it might not be exactly the right size. So if there's a 40 or 42 or something, we have to see exactly what we're gonna get, but we think we can get it for the under 20, so it wouldn't need a bid.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. McIntyre, do you have any questions?
I was just going to say, Mrs. Cerrucci, Dr. Short, myself, and Bob Brown had a meeting Friday, and we're discussing the topic, and some different ideas came out. I don't want to get into real specifics, but we're looking at some other alternative ideas. My main hang-up is that the price point difference between what truck we would normally buy and the F-350. That F-350, we would only need the truck that size to pull this trailer. And which, if that's the way it goes, and that's the way it goes, we're looking at some alternative avenues that might provide more flexibility and more usage for the district as a whole, and that could benefit everybody. So we're working on some other solutions, but we're going to get there.
So Rick, I did explain to Mrs. Burns all of the solutions after our meeting Friday for the various box truck or a smaller trailer in conjunction with a box truck. So she's aware of all those options, and I think given that.
We definitely have a timing problem, though. I think the first away football game is on the 17th or 24th, and we take our equipment with that, so we don't have any way to transfer our equipment then, and our first competition is September 8th at Kiski. So we're gonna, at this point, I think, start having problems, and maybe, if because of the delay, maybe the school district could help us pay for if we have to rent something to get us there, because whatever we're gonna buy, is that maybe the district could help us pay for that rental in the meantime, in the interim, until we get the final truck that we're gonna get.
So I think what she's saying is she wants us to forego the other alternatives, and they want to go back to the original deal. And if I understand correctly, they might even like us to make it an action item tonight so that we
I
can,
think that's a pretty big gamble to buy the trailer and possibly have the board vote down the truck that would pull it.
So
I think we all need to
can't-
get on the same page before
Right.
we really
Yeah.
move forward.
So we won't buy a trailer until we know for sure what the district has. No, we're not, yeah.
Okay.
But once the district has made the final decision on whether they will buy the larger pickup truck, then
Okay.
we would go forward with the trailer option.
so they can't buy a trailer, Rick, until we make a decision on the truck.
Correct.
Are we certain that the truck that they want to purchase is adequate for the trailer that they want to purchase? Do we need Mr. Brown here for that?
That was confirmed by Mr. Brown at the last meeting, that the truck, the truck that was initially placed on the agenda would be adequate to pull the trailer.
What was bid?
Yes.
But that's not the trailer that you're buying, or it is?
I'm not sure if we do the 46 or we can go a little smaller. We'll have to.
So it won't be bigger?
It will not be bigger.
So
No, absolutely
if
will not be bigger.
so if everybody's clear, if the truck that's on the agenda right now is purchased today, it will tow the biggest trailer possible that you plan on buying. If you
Correct.
change the trailer, it will be smaller.
It'll be smaller,
So there'll be
correct.
no issue with the towing of that.
Correct.
So we won't be buying a truck that will be inoperable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does anybody else have any discussion on this? None? Okay. Thanks, Mrs. Burns.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak on agenda items?
Please sign the paperwork if I have to sign.
Okay. My name is Ann Tanis, and I would like to talk about the wellness policy that has been going on with Mr. Lorenzo. And I did speak on this a couple of months ago before we started to have committee meetings. And now we just found out, I believe it was right before Easter, that a meeting was held that no parent, for whatever reason, was not able to attend. And the policy was changed, or a proposed policy saying that they're just going to say no food at all allowed at any events in the school, of course, besides the cafeteria. And so I just have a couple questions to raise. I'm very upset about this. One, that no parents were at this meeting and that such a policy, a proposed policy came forward. And I just want to go back, I think, to the beginning and say, why was this discussion ever even raised? Were there children at risk? Have there been any issues? I'm a Ramsey parent. I have two daughters there, 2nd and 3rd grade. And as far as I'm aware, there has never been an issue at Ramsey. It has always been an issue where if there is a child that has an allergy, that it's noted in each classroom, the parents work around that allergy, and it's always worked. In the past 3 years, neither of my children have had an allergy in either of their classrooms. So if this were an issue, if this were the policy that that the school board would adopt, it's basically saying, okay, so for all of you children that don't have any allergies, you know what, forget any food. But instead, I believe we're supposed to purchase, so I forget what all the ideas are that we're to purchase instead to have a party. But that's beside the point. I believe that one of the other ladies is going to talk about that. I just really feel that we're just making a mountain out of a molehill, really out of nothing. If this were an issue, then I could say, let's really consider it. But I feel, is this something that just because maybe another district in the area is considering this, that we're doing it? Let's really look at the facts. And I see right above there, common sense district. Well, we are parents that have common sense. And the thing that I really took great offense to, these were in the minutes from the meeting on April 16th. And this was a discussion that was done by Nurse Bishop. And according to her report, it said, that it was talking about big time constraints and huge safety concerns. Highlight the provided feedback, suggested that we be done with food. The nurses are saying that this is taking time out of their day to look at possible food suggestions. And then the bullet point right underneath that. Also noted that the increased parental traffic in and out of the buildings further compounded safety concerns. So are you saying that I, as a parent going into the school, is a hindrance? This I take great offense to, that this is what apparently Nurse Bishop thinks about us parents going in and out. Whether or not we're taking snacks, whatever we're doing in the building, apparently we are a hindrance. So to me, there's something more behind all of this than just a food consideration. And I just really hope that we can come up with a better plan than this. We were at a point before of, okay, we're going to start looking at labels, or let's just come up with an approved list. But now we're saying let's just scrap it, and especially when not a single parent was available at that meeting. So that is what I would like to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Tanis. Does anybody else want to speak to this issue specifically?
My name's Adrienne Weaver. I've been here speaking about the food policy before. I just want to build on what she said a bit. I did some research on a lot of our surrounding school districts and what they do as far as food, bringing outside food into the school classrooms. And I did about 16 to 17 different schools just in the surrounding area, and only 3 of them, which would be Trafford, Riverview, well, Penn Trafford and Riverview, have a snack list. The other schools, that would be Franklin Regency, Norwin, Hempfield, Woodland Hills, Greater Works, Penn Hills, Plum, all Pittsburgh Public, Fox Chapel, they have no list. They're allowed to have any outside food in the classrooms. They do ask the parents to be mindful of what they bring in, especially if there's kids with allergies. I did take great offense, and I'll be honest, it was kind of laughable when I read in the meeting minutes that different examples of non-food items could be helium balloons, coupons, movies, games, puzzles, clowns, jugglers, face painting, stickers. I'm not sure who would be footing the bill for that, because I can tell you now, it would not be me. It would not be our PTO. We just don't have the funds to pay for 340 balloons, 340 times 0, 340 games, 340 puzzles. And I did want to mention one other thing as well. I know you all know the numbers for the economically disadvantaged. It's all in the Future Ready Index. So UP's 40%, Evergreen's 63%, Cleveland Stewart is at a 31% economically disadvantaged or poverty level, Ramsey's 44%. And if you add in the middle school and the high school, that's collectively in our district about 50% of economically disadvantaged kids. If that's the case, we should be at every opportunity putting food in these kids' mouths, not taking it away. I do work at the food bank. I volunteer. I'm sorry, I get emotional about this. I volunteer at the food bank. I have 85 families that we help feed. I see the kids in those families. There's about 15 kids in our district that we feed from that food bank. If that's the case too, that we're taking away their, I just want to say that we should not be taking the food away from these children. At any opportunity, we should be putting it in their mouths. I know we have a backpack program at UP, and I love that. I think that's fantastic. But again, I think it'd be a huge disservice taking this policy away or taking food away and amending this policy.
It's a great point, Mrs. Weaver.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak to this same issue? Mrs. Beagle?
Hi, my name's Jeanette Beagle. I have 3 children at University Park. I will also say I was not able to attend the last meeting for the Health Council because I'm finishing my nursing degree, and was literally flabbergasted when I read the meeting minutes, that it provides big-time constraints. Part of a job of a nurse is to make sure your children are safe. Instead of looking at the policy and looking at what could be done and trying to remedy it, like literally it could be as simple as a box with index cards separated by classroom. We put the kids' names in there that have food allergies, and when the slip comes for the approved things, we just go, we look, we compare, yes, no. It's really not difficult. I think they're making a huge mountain out of a molehill. I asked at a meeting previously how many instances of food-related reactions we've had specifically to the snacks being brought in. I don't have an answer for that. If I can get a specific answer and if there's actually an issue with it, then I'm gonna say by all means, let's not do it. But if it's literally just these snacks, that's a problem. We have allergens in our cafeteria. We serve peanut butter and jelly. We have children with celiac sensitivities that 90% of our lunch menu, they can't even eat. We have children coming in that get breakfast and take it back to the classrooms. Are we ensuring all these desks are scrubbed down because we're going with different grades? If we want to remove the unhealthy snacks, that's fine. I literally sat down yesterday with my 3 children and said, okay, when we have our holiday parties in the school, what do you guys like to do? They like to play games. We like to eat snacks. Well, what kind of snacks would you like? You know, Mom, it would be nice if we had fruit trays or veggie trays, maybe some potato chips. It's not rocket science. Kids will eat it if you put it in front of them. And I often think about what gathering party do you go to that there isn't food there? What celebrations are you going to that it isn't part of it? These children are little for a very short time. And removing some of the fun of this aspect of their life is just unfair to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Beagle. Is there anyone else? Okay, I just want to clarify too that I did see the emails that went back and forth after the meeting. Maybe Val, you want to add something because I think you were there.
John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
But I did want to say that the policy was, it's not the policy, it's just the recommendation at this point of the council, and it hasn't been voted on by the board. And I think there was some misunderstanding with some of the people that it was effective immediately.
Which it was
And
not.
We talked about this and said that we're still going to revisit this, is that correct? And try to come up with some kind of compromise. That was my
Yes,
suggestion.
absolutely. We had a policy committee meeting, and I don't have the specific date, but I know Mr. Ritter had taken some notes.
April 16th.
John, would you like to summarize?
Sure. I mean, this team has been working for an awful long time to try to make the school environment safe for kids. We know that some kids have allergies, adverse reactions, and sensitivities. To try to coordinate that with every possible combination is an extraordinarily difficult thing. Nurses' time, there needs to be a way so that the nurses can figure out which students are at school that day and when a party is planned and what's intended to be brought in. All of those increase the complexity. So it's a difficult thing that's not easily solved perfectly. So the best thing to do, we thought, would be to give ourselves a cutoff point, go with whatever we had, bring it before the board, let the board vote on it. We tried to have the input from Martin Lorenzo and the rest of the team gathered. We did our best to evaluate that. We thought of any alternatives that we could think of. We thought it would be good for the community to weigh in on ideas that we hadn't thought of and bring those to the table. The door's wide open for us to do whatever we can possibly do to allow the parents to celebrate the wonderful teachers and the students' accomplishments. And food is often involved with that, but sometimes sensitivities and student safety needs to be brought forward, and sometimes that outweighs it. So there's no perfect solution. So we're looking for whatever solution we can live with here. So thank you very much for all the great input that you brought here. We regret that some of the parents weren't able to make the meeting. That happens all the time. So we've got some of your input now. We can take it back to the team. We can hash that out, bring it again to the board. And then what we thought of, rather than to keep this an ongoing, never resolved problem, to go ahead and give ourselves a cutoff point and say, this is where it is, and then evaluate it again later, and then adjust it from there. So that's the notes from the meeting that I took.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter.
I'm just going to chime in too. At that meeting, we discussed, not having snacks, Mr. Lorenzo had said it would be up to our administrative team to make a call if it's loud. I have contacted Chick-fil-A, which everyone seemed to be in approval with. I'm working with them right now to, they sent me all over the nutrition information and forward that to the nurse, whomever that, needs to see that. So, and I understand too that fourth grade send-off at UP was getting Chick-fil-A in, and I know also at UP they were using that for their rewards for the book count, reading counts. Forgot that one. So that was approved by
Yes,
Dr. Short.
Discussion that really focused at that policy committee meeting on some alternatives that would really help and assist our students and parents as moving forward. So we're still in the process of developing that policy, and we will continue to update that with some additional ideas.
And we hear you, and we don't want to take all the fun away from the kids.
No.
We have to find a fine balance to have fun, keep the kids safe. I'm sure we can find a happy medium. Keep working at it. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on any other issues on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move toward Section 1, Financial Reports. Mr. Schott?
Section B, receiving the administration is presenting Section B1, list of bills for the month of May 2019. Section B2, monthly financial statements for the month of April 2019. And finally, Section B3, budget transfers for the month of May 2019.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Schott? Okay, seeing none. Section C, items previously tabled. Would anybody like to make a motion to untable the Day Fleet commercial sales truck for the purpose of discussion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second by Scotty. Motion by Mr. Bova to untable purchase and payments for various department items during 2019 fiscal year. Day Fleet commercial sales 2019 Ford Super Duty F-350 truck.
So, Mr. McIntyre, I wasn't privy to the conversation about the
We
other
have a
options.
motion and
Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't
a
voted.
second to
Yeah, I'm sorry.
untable.
My bad.
Can we vote, please?
Are you ready, Bonnie?
Would that be just for the purchase of the truck, and it won't be the G&G resolution as well?
Right, just to untable.
The truck,
Well,
Jack, are you untabling only the truck?
Yes.
Only the truck.
okay,
so there's two within item number one.
okay. One moment,
We're
please.
just gonna do the truck.
Yeah, just the truck.
Yeah.
We're leaving
Calm down, Mr.
G&G
McIntyre.
for
Yeah.
where it is for now.
Mrs. Cerrucci,
Aye.
Mr. Gottman? Aye. Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
No.
Mr. McIntyre?
No.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Motion carries. On table.
Okay, I'd like to open it up for discussion.
So, I've heard that there were other options bandied about. Can I hear any specifics about that, or do we make any progress? Did I hear mention of a box truck?
Yeah, I think the idea that it was discussed at the meeting on Friday was the idea that this F-350 is not a very versatile vehicle as far as what we're getting as an F-350 versus what we would normally buy to replace the current truck in the fleet. The only need for that, $20,000 to $30,000 price point difference would be to benefit the band trailer, okay? In other words, for every other thing that we use that truck for, we don't need it to be an F-350. We need it to be what we already have. So my idea was, if we're gonna buy a larger vehicle, let's look at something that could actually benefit the district on the whole and be a little bit more versatile. And with the band's current operation, they have a certain size trailer that works currently with what we have in our fleet as far as a pickup truck. And then they've been renting I think a 26-foot box truck. And I believe it was that size because that's the only one that had the lift gate available. So Mr. Brown and I were discussing looking at some 18 and 20-foot box trucks that we can then actually add the lift gate to. That box truck becomes part of the Gateway fleet, becomes a valuable resource for our, for the whole district. As far as moving supplies, things like that. The current box truck we have is, I forget how many years old, but, it's getting towards the end of its life. I think it provides a much more versatile answer. It provides all of the needs that the band would currently have. It saves you money on a smaller trailer that can still be pulled by an F-250, and you still have the box truck available. So that was my idea.
I'm just going to ask, you made a comment that that would save the district 20 to 30,000. I mean, on a truck, you're going to say you can buy a truck for 11,000, 21 to 11,000,
I
and
didn't
that,
say any of those things.
You said it would be a savings of 20 to 30,000.
The word savings never came out of my mouth, Mrs. Warren.
I think what he means is that the difference from the F-150 to the F-350 is about $20,000.
Or he said 20 or 30, which would
It's about-
suggest
it's
that
about
there's an
20.
$11,000 pickup truck somewhere, which we all
That's-
pretty much know is not the case.
Right, that's what I picked up, that's what I'm
Oh,
thinking.
I see what you're saying. No, yeah, the difference is about $20,000.
Okay, I apologize.
Do we have any quotes on box trucks?
Mr. Brown was working on those, but he is currently on
They're
vacation.
not here yet?
No quotes.
I
on
think, to
box
me,
trucks.
that it's irrelevant to move forward with the box truck, because I was under the understanding that we were only gonna go with a box truck if we were gonna buy a smaller trailer. But the band has just made it clear that they don't want that option, so why would we force them onto our option when the price is probably gonna be negligible? I can't imagine a box truck being significantly lower than the $20,000 they're asking us to
But
pay extra on a
with
truck.
the box truck scenario, we are adding a vehicle to our fleet. We're gonna hold on to the F-250 for another year, so it's actually adding a vehicle to our fleet, expanding the fleet. That truck would be, again, used for more purposes than just the pulling of the trailer.
Do we need another truck for our fleet?
According to Mr. Brown, a box truck would be very, very useful for the district.
Wow.
Again, because of.
But we need a pickup truck too. It's either this year we buy a pickup truck or we put it off for 1 year, just so
Right.
everybody's clear.
Right.
We do plan on purchasing a pickup truck.
Correct, to replace
If
one of the
we-
F-250.
If we didn't go with the F-350 this year, we would be maybe delaying it for a year because of our little budgetary crisis to try to save it. You have anything to add, Mr. Schott? He just sits there so quietly, and I know he wants to talk.
Well, and just,
He has
you
all
know,
those folders sitting right in front of him.
I have a lot of information. Specifically, just to share some of the differences that have been discussed already. You know, what is on the agenda is an F-350 for $41,472. Previously, when we replaced our last truck, was an F-250, it was $26,584, so approximately $15,000 difference between the two for that. But in terms of the truck in the fleet that we need to replace, it's either now or later. I mean, it's a truck that needs to be replaced. It's an old truck. It's getting towards the end of its useful life. You know, just similar to the current band trailer, you can only repair them so many times, and it's not really worth carrying on for that. And you know, one of the other things in terms of pickup truck, you can plow with a pickup truck, so that adds some characteristics as well in terms of things you can do, more versatility with that as well. So. But in terms of whether we would get the truck now or later, we would still purchase it in a similar type of manner as being suggested right here with this F-350 in terms of making the purchase now. And in terms of buying it now is to provide some budgetary relief because, again, originally when these discussions started many months ago, we initially put the truck into next year's budget. And so, again, in line with us trying to reduce expenditures for next year's budget, that's where the idea came, let's purchase it now, the current year's budget, out of some excess funds in some of the budgetary categories available. So I'm not sure if that added any clarification on anything for that or not, but.
Mr. Lapsich? You have anything to add?
No, I misunderstood the truck situation. I didn't know we needed a truck for our fleet in the near future. I didn't know that. I thought we were just buying this truck for the band,
Which truck, the pickup or the box truck?
the pickup. And I wouldn't have voted the way I did if I knew in the near future we needed a new truck. And for that extra 10 or 15 grand, in my opinion, doesn't matter if we need it upgraded and we're done with it. That's all.
Mr. Cerucci, I have a question. Are you the driver for the, so I have a technical question about the
Go ahead,
difference
Mr. Ray.
between a trailer and a box truck capabilities. And so it's with respect to the time required for packing it and the safety. Once a trailer is packed and attached to a vehicle, if the balance is incorrect, it causes gyrations. In other words, it's got to be packed by someone who knows how to pack it and balance the trailer. Otherwise, it can be a dangerous situation. With a box truck, you have an I-beam whereby the time required to pack it and unpack it is smaller. And I noticed that Mr. Hulte went into a bit of a detail about how difficult it is to pack it and the staging that you have to go through to pack it and unpack it correctly. Am I on the right track with this? In other words, if the board is trying to consider the difference between a trailer versus a box truck, we need to know from the driver's perspective what the issues are, and we don't, right?
Well, I think we can
Sir,
both-
if you want to take the microphone, or?
I think we can both talk to some of that, because my daughters have been enough where they've done winter compression, they've had to load the trailer, so there's a couple things, is so when they have the trailer, they have to put the instruments on it. Those are really expensive instruments, and we don't leave them out in the potential weather, everything else. So when they finish performing at a halftime, they load them back on, but because of the construction of the current trailer, they actually have to pull all the equipment back off to put the drum type stuff that they use in the stands, to put that back on. So that's sort of a logistical difficulty, and I think what Mr. Kelso was referencing about how we load and unload the trailer itself. Mr. Chase can speak about the loading.
And the balance,
SUV truck.
loading too much weight on the tongue makes it unstable, and loading too much weight on the back also lifts the tongue, and that's an unstable situation. Am I on the right
Well,
track there?
With the new trailer, the parents and Mr. Halsey and everybody, we're gonna get together and make sure that we can have it balanced correctly, okay? Once we have that figured out, then that's when we show the kids how to actually properly load it.
Okay.
It's the kids' responsibility to load the trailer.
All right, so-
Currently, we only use the 26-foot box truck because the equipment that goes on there doesn't fit on the current trailer.
Okay, so that opens the door for the board to just weigh the difference between the two styles, that's all.
Go ahead, Mr. Lapsovich.
Is it true, like, you have a heavier piece of equipment, doesn't that actually go over the main axles that would stabilize that trailer, and then the lighter stuff can go either in front or back?
Correct. Most of the heavy stuff would be over top of the axles
Yeah.
in the trailer.
Thank you.
All the lighter stuff goes on.
And just to be clear, any of the scenarios still involve a trailer. We haven't mentioned any scenario that involves no trailer, so the loading, the unloading, I assume, since I've not seen your trailer swerving down Route 48, you've learned both how to load it and how to tow it.
It's like built out on the inside, so it goes a certain way, and we
There you
also
go.
have to build out the new trailer
Of
the
course.
same way.
Right.
And the new trailer actually has, with that, we're gonna get the side door, which is very common with the van, so you can load both directions, just because that strange loading is from
And,
weight
and
distribution.
just let me say, I'd like to thank you folks for stepping up and buying, or offering to buy the trailer. I mean, last we were having this conversation,
We weren't
that was
there.
not necessarily an option. So when I have a chance, I'd like to find out, how do I actually make this an action item so we can
Make a
go back
motion.
to purchase the truck?
Make a motion right now to make it an action item.
I have another question, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Lapsovich.
Thank you. Yeah, I give you credit for being the driver. I think my main, I haul just 8-foot trailers, and I have one heck of a time going to left to the right, backing it up. But I think my main concern would be, not the weight in that trailer, would be the length of that trailer for you to handle it. Do you,
I personally don't handle the trailer.
Our district employees drive the
Oh, I thought
trailer.
he did.
He
Yeah.
drives the box truck.
I drive a box.
oh, I thought you drove.
Yeah.
But
So-
that's, Mr. Brian was talking about, the pool, bumper pool that we have is still difficult to maneuver. A lot of those places don't give us a lot of space. If
That's
you've ever
what I
been
meant.
to the Kiski Stadium in the middle of town, they actually have to pull that in, unload it,
Okay.
and park it in very odd, small
Thank you.
places.
So if I may, I'd like to make a motion to purchase the F-350
Oh, I should have
truck.
hammered it.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bova, second by Mr. Williams. Is there any more discussion?
Well, we can't really vote on that right now.
We just made an action item, John.
Took it off the table.
We untabled it, and Mr. Bova just made it an action item.
Okay, so then we can. Okay, good.
Yeah, and we
Thank
don't
you.
even need a supermajority because it was tabled.
That's correct.
So,
Okay,
roll
good.
call.
roll call, Bonnie.
Okay. Mr. Gottman?
No.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsovich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
No.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Motion
Motion
carried.
passes. Okay, moving on to Section D, Personnel Agenda. Mrs. Trump.
Were there any more questions about the athletics?
we're doing anything.
Is there anybody else want to untable anything in section C? I apologize.
I'd like to untable, take the athletic department purchases, untable that
For what purpose?
discussion.
She needs a second before we can discuss.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lapsevich or Mr. Williams. Okay, now you can discuss. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vote on untabling. Forgive me.
That's the G and G, right?
Yes.
Dr. Kalkstein? Dr.
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Boba?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now you may discuss.
What is the reason that we are not looking to move this forward right now, to vote on this? Why are we tabling
Who
it?
wants to
Why was
answer
it
that?
tabled?
I think, I don't know, it was tabled last
It
week
was
because we
tabled
were getting
last week.
revised bids for.
Yes, and if you notice, the bid came in
Correct? Lower?
slightly lower.
Yeah.
Is there,
So it's-
Right, and there were questions about whether we needed an entire floor, whether we needed a floor under certain
Correct.
workstations. There were, it seemed to me we had some debate. Of course, there was the discussion about the artwork, so just to answer your question, that's why it got tabled.
Yeah, there's still a number of things on that bid that are listed that I think we need to take a closer look at. The flooring being, I think, excuse me, the number one, the highest dollar amount issue. Was another topic that was discussed at our meeting. Had Mr. Ravesti, I even got a hold of Coach Hall. We're discussing some different options to bring the cost down
That
associated
was,
with the flooring.
that was Friday afternoon?
That was Friday afternoon.
And how did that, and are you still waiting for some bids to come in, some revised price quotes? Is that why this is tabled?
We have a revised price quote with reduction in the amount of flooring,
And the elimination of the
The
artwork.
G's.
the artwork.
we
That is
discussed that,
correct.
G, before.
Mhm.
So when you're talking the elimination and the flooring, are you looking to a cheaper floor, or are we still
Same
looking at?
flooring, just, but what the flooring is, it's this 1 inch thick, it's called
Rubber.
Thor floor. It's for Olympic lifts. It's for specific exercises where you know that the weights have a very high probability of hitting the ground. Okay, it's your cleans, it's your deadlifts. All right, we currently have 5 platforms set up for these lifts. And several of them are not utilized at all for that purpose. Like they have a bench on them, like an incline bench. The idea that they want the entire floor done in this flooring so that they can drop weights wherever they want around the gym. And my suggestion was that if we only need it for these specific lifts, let's just set up a station or 2 stations where we need this actual flooring, because the current flooring in the gym, there's 0 issues with. That would save us a considerable amount of money.
So you're,
And if it doesn't work out, we can always go back, and it's an easy process to go in and actually add more. And also, I think another thing we were waiting on is not included in this bid was labor for taking apart the equipment that's in the weight room,
Oh, that's good.
moving it out, and then putting it back in and reassembling it. Mr. Brown made it pretty clear that we are not currently capable of doing that under the time frame.
who's we?
The district.
The company recommended that the team actually do it, and the district.
He actually
felt
made a
that that was
recommendation
a
that we
bad
have the
idea
students
to
do
have
it.
students move.
I know other
equipment.
schools have done that, but I don't feel that's good.
No,
But
I don't
when you
think we should
say,
have kids
I don't think
moving
any of
this
us wanna
piece
do
of
that.
equipment. So that's gonna be an additional expense, either way we do it, whether it's in-house or if it's through the vendor.
so you feel only doing part of the floor because they don't utilize the rest of the floor. Do you think in the future, it's going to be cheaper to finish the flooring if they utilize it? I think, my personal feeling, if the floor is done all at one time, it's done, instead of looking down the road. How much of a difference are you going to save with only part of the flooring?
If we do only part of the floor and it works and it's fine and that's all they need to have for, again, two, maybe 3 specific exercises. You know what I mean? That you want kind of out of the way because there's weights flying around.
Well, they're not flying, they're lifting. They're- I'm just saying,
In other words, I wouldn't feel
I'm not gonna
comfortable with them
argue,
doing
I mean, I'm
a
just saying,
hang clean in the middle of the
I
gym.
know how they
It's a little dangerous.
do the lifts and things like that.
I think with the, the budget situation and us trying to cut, that we're trying to reduce.
Well, it's not
and
just
go with what's
used-
necessary.
I see too, it's being used by the whole school district. I mean, it's not just athletics, it's the students in the school can go down and lift, so it's just not being done for athletics. So, I want the community to know that, this is being done for anyone that wants to use it in the school.
What's
So,
the recommendation of the athletic director with respect to doing the entire floor or just partial?
He recommended doing the whole floor because potential tripping issues when you have multiple layers on the floor that are an inch higher or lower.
We currently have 5 layers that are 6 to 7 inches higher. This would actually be an incredible and pretty remarkable increase in safety as far as tripping hazard goes. By the end of the meeting, Mr. Rivesti and Coach Hall were both, I think, open to the idea of looking at the smaller area of the flooring.
well, I don't want to say anything because I know talking to them, that's not the consensus that I heard. So
Well,
I
then-
don't want to
then-
say, I'm
well,
just
then
saying,
he was
I don't want to
dishonest with me
argue.
at the meeting.
I'm
Well,
just
I
saying,
apologize.
I wasn't there, but I did
Well, is
get
it,
pulled
is
in.
it fair to say that if this, we would have a bid in front of us for next meeting so that this could be an action item? Because I think that's what Mrs. Warning is trying to move to.
Right,
A
we need to
decision
get
on this.
started.
So will we be confident that next week we have all the revised bids in front of everybody so they can make
We
a
have the
decision?
revised bid going from,
It's not an attachment line by line. I mean, everybody wants to see the line by line bid.
And it's not, and I guarantee it doesn't include the labor
Because
to
it's tabled,
disassemble.
it's not an exhibit on the,
I have a copy, a hard copy I can hand out.
I think that.
What's on there?
I'm happy if we can do that for next week.
Is it the price, Mr. Schott, that's showing here?
The 67,000, yes.
Yes.
Yes, 67,207.23.
Does it include labor for moving the equipment in and out of the gym?
I do not believe it does have that on
So
it.
it's not actually an accurate bid.
It's not complete.
It's not a complete bid.
Not
It's
complete.
that we're going to need to account for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Would you be happy if we could put it
Well,
as
I'm
an
just-
action item for next
Correct.
week? Would that be acceptable?
That would be fine.
Okay, can we do that? Leave it untabled, and everybody needs a line item copy of the revised bid.
So this will go back
next
as
week.
an action item for section
It'll be on,
C?
G?
it's untabled now, so we'll leave it untabled, and I want it to be added to the agenda for next Wednesday as a regular action item. I mean, everything next Wednesday is an action item. And if for some reason we don't have the bids, then somebody can make a motion to table it again.
Fair enough.
Okay, great. Let's move to section D, personnel.
Thank you, Ms. Silverucci. Presented for you this evening are the motions for next week, Wednesday, May 22nd. We have 2 resignations listed. We want to congratulate Joanna Garone. She's been with the district for 22 years, and she will be retiring on May 31st. Under leave of absence, we have 4. Transfers, we have 1 listed per collective bargaining agreements. Section 4, we're having the addition of a department head and a substitute custodian. We're also requesting the approval of the extended school year teachers. We have 17 listed there. Approval for 45 paraprofessionals for the summer program. For our early literacy program, we're requesting 8 at this time. We do foresee that we may need additional before next week. Under supplemental contracts, we have a resignation and an issuance, and 6 volunteers.
Great. Any questions for Mrs. Crump? Seeing none?
Mrs. Ferrucci, before we do that, can we jump back to the items previously tabled? We have item number 2. The question is that outdated now? A C2.
Boy, I'm trying to get away from
Fine.
section C, and you keep bringing me
Well,
back there.
it's on the agenda, so that's why something needs to be done with it. That's with the Van Boosters
Yeah,
trailer.
Because we now took action on number 1, that
Yeah.
opens the door for us to decide about number 2, right?
So since the boosters don't want help, then let's pull this
We-
off.
no need-
You want to untable it
we
and
can
vote
release it
it
from
to
being
remove it?
tabled,
I would need a motion to do that.
I'd like to make a motion on table.
Is there a
item
second?
2.
John seconds.
Okay.
If there's a consensus to remove it, just direct the secretary to remove it. Is that the consensus of the board to remove this item from the agenda at this point? Because if that's the case, the board
All those
president
in favor,
can
please
direct
say
it.
signify by saying
Say
aye.
aye. Go ahead.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? None.
Thank you. Okay. You're done with
Okay.
C.
Thank you, Bruce.
You killed it.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter and Mrs. Warning. Let's go to section E, conferences and conventions. We do have an action item. Mr. Chaky, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Rucci. We do have an action item tonight for 4 conferences as listed.
So it's New Jersey, Gettysburg, and Penn State for anybody who's watching. Nothing to Cuba or Florida or anywhere else exciting.
No, I'm kidding.
Ms. Crum, how'd you get your trip for free? Up with that.
I work hard at it, no.
All right, I like that.
It's sponsored by the PASBO organization, and I'm a regional officer. So it's a leadership development seminar where they pay the cost for it.
You're casting those fuel groups.
We like those. Any other questions?
Then Sean Whelan and Jeff Byros are attending the AP Summer Institute for accreditation to be teaching the courses for next year.
Can somebody make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mrs. Warning. Is there any further legitimate discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
section F. We also have an action item in section F. Administrative report. Who's taking that one?
There he is.
Mr. Shaw.
Item number 1, adopt and approve the advertisement and required placement on public display via the budget form PD 2028, the proposed final general fund budget for 2019-2020 fiscal year in the amount of $77,510,000. It is further resolved the 1920 proposed final general fund budget shall be considered for adoption at the board's regular meeting to be held on Tuesday, June 18, 2019. The final public hearing for the proposed final general fund budget will take place on Tuesday, June 4, 2019, at 6 p.m. in the high school LGI room. Note, the above budget amount will continue to change and be updated as applicable prior to the final public hearing, as well as prior to the June study session and the June regular board meeting. The budget is currently required to be balanced through the utilization of unassigned fund balance and a real estate tax millage increase of 0.3519 mils to eliminate a deficit amount of $800,000. In lieu of a tax increase, additional expenditure reductions or the utilization of unassigned fund balance will be required to balance the final budget. The adoption and placement on public display of the district's proposed final general fund budget is a requirement of Special Session Act 1 of 2006. The approval of the above resolution does not set a final budget amount and does not set a final real estate tax millage rate for a 1920 fiscal year. Again, this is just a requirement of Act 1. I do want to point out and note that from our prior meeting, we were looking at a deficit of $1.1 million, and we were able to reduce it down to $800,000. We do have a list of things, again, almost daily. New information is coming in. I have a list of items on my desk right now that I'm taking a look at, making additional adjustments, which will impact this remaining $800,000 deficit. But again, as we do every year, we continually work all the way up to that final meeting and make as many adjustments as possible. Administratively, we're also going to be taking further looks at various items in the budget to see where we can reduce, adjust, whatever we can do to eliminate this amount. But again, this is just a formality of the process with Act 1 and just a stepping. And I know it was asked earlier, why showing it like that? We've consistently showed what the deficit equates to in terms of millage rate. Again, by no means saying that we are raising the taxes. It's just for utilization and in terms of how the form works itself. That's part of that process.
Just so the public is aware that Mr. Schott meets daily with me, updates, ins and outs, projected assessments, appeals, everything. And we started nearly $2 million plus the tax increase. when we initiated the budget development for 1920. And we're down to a deficit of $800,000. So we continue to do this. And I think it's important that our tax base understands this, that this is something that we take very seriously. And we've been able to do some wonderful things over the years, hence why one of the lowest millage rates in Allegheny County.
I just want to make a comment, too.
Can we have a motion?
Oh, I'm
Yeah, let's
sorry.
get a
I'm
motion
sorry.
first, and then we can talk. Motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second?
I said it 3 times.
I thought you were calling for someone to make a motion.
Literally.
Scott, second, okay.
I'm giving that to Scott, seconded by Rick.
Okay.
Discussion. Go ahead, Mrs. Warning.
I just want to, Mr. Schott, we always say, he watches every penny. They even calculate, I saw in Mr. Brown's budget, not Micah, Mr. Bob Brown, they have 10 tax at 19 cents apiece for $1.90 total. It's on the budget. So, they look at every little thing. So this is all included, so. Paul?
Everything is itemized, and a matter of fact, I
Yes.
just want to
Are
mention
those the
that.
1/8 inch tax or the, okay, we give a number of different
Yes,
taxes.
I just, like I said, when you see everything that they look at.
Does anybody have
they're-
tax at home that they could donate?
No, we're not doing that. But that's,
I mean, I have a
just
drawer
letting the
full of
public
them.
know, everything is looked at, everything is itemized, and even the 10 tax.
I was saying, that brings up a great point, because in addition to the PD 2028, next week we'll be posting all the detail of the entire budget online, just like we normally do. So again, you get to see where every dollar is going in our budget. It's not a requirement to do that, but we've always done that for full disclosure and to provide a additional document. The PD document is a summary document.
Which could change
Oh, well,
as we move
it
forward
will most
until
certainly
the
change,
final
but
budget
It's a summary
is passed.
document, and, it has its good points and bad points, but when you look at the detail, the full detail that we present, you really get a chance to really see what each department is looking for, each building, exactly what we're looking to purchase in the budget. So, again, that will be forthcoming.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I know that anytime anybody sees him mention millage increase, immediately there's alarm in the public and statements that we're raising taxes. And I'm glad you clarified that. I hope everybody takes a close look at that and understands that the board as a whole definitely directed administration to make more cuts, and they've done a great job, and they're going to continue to work diligently through the end of June.
Don't cut the tax, they may need them. Go ahead, you're on.
Okay. We need a vote.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mrs. Warning?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
No. Bonnie, you actually laughed.
What was that?
That's the best thing I've ever.
Mr. Williams would like to go on record that he does not want to publish the bid.
It just completely came out of nowhere. No, like that. Caught us by surprise.
Mr. Bova?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Dr. Kalkstein?
Aye.
Mr. Lapsevich?
Aye.
Who says we don't have fun? Motion passed. Oh. Okay, administrative reports, non-action items.
Secondary, we have some approval of textbooks and nursing. Dr. Shake?
Here for discussion tonight, in item 1, we have final approval of the AP government textbook, which was initially placed on public display on April 16th. And also item number 2, in-school nursing services by EDA Pediatrics is depicted in Exhibit A.
How about the education report? Do we want to move on to all of them, or do we want to just stop and
Yeah, let's just
discuss?
roll through education report elementary.
Number 3, we have 30-day display, public display for roughly 18 policies. So approve the 30-day public display of the following revised and new policies. They can be located on the district's website under school boards, under policies.
Okay, financial report?
Item number 4, approve the renewal of the waterfront learning program and the pricing addendum rates between the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 and the district to provide a cyber school student learning format during the 2019-2020 fiscal year. That's depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 5, Approve the educational services agreement with the Allegheny Intermediate Number 3 for the purchase of special education services that's applicable during the 1920 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit C. Note, the district is not obligated to purchase the special education services from the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3. The educational services agreement includes the terms and conditions related to the services the district decides to purchase. Item number 6, approve the continuation of the service agreement with CTI Water Treatment Solutions for required heating and cooling, water treatment testing, and inspection services in the total amount of $4,800 for the 1920 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit D. Note there's an increase of approximately 2%, $150 in the total price to the district for the 1920 fiscal year. Several different types of heating and cooling water systems located throughout the district will be included under a service agreement consisting of hot water loops, chilled water loops, and the cooling tower. Item number 7, approve the continued appointment of Richard M. Affeltard, Jr., DMD, as the district school dentist for the 1920 fiscal year at the rate of $5 per student dental examination. Note, Richard M. Affeltard, Jr., DMD, will continue to perform the applicable student dental examination services at no increase in the price to the district for the 1920 fiscal year. Item number 8, since I can't.
Approval of appointment of school board treasurer for the 2019 fiscal school year. Appointment of Paul Schott.
Item number 9, acceptance of district donations received during the 18-19 fiscal year. Specifically, donation from BNY Mellon Community Partnership, $500 check. Recipient, Jody Price, employee of BNY Mellon. Support of student activities at Ramsey Elementary School. Next items, Brucey Dice and Associates, PC, $500 check. Rabbi Barbara Absalom's, $100 check. Monroeville Interfaith Ministerium, $250 check, all in the support of the Black Student Union, to support the Black Student Union activities at Gateway High School. The next group, Monroeville Foundation, $1,000 check. Mrs. Solomon, $30 Giant Eagle gift card. Moe's backpacks and non-perishable food. Jennifer Hoffner for the backpack program at University Park Elementary School. Item number 10, approve in accordance with Section 621 of the Pennsylvania School Code the continued designation of PNC Bank Miracle Mile Office as the district's depository of funds for a one-year period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Item number 11, approve in accordance with Section 440.1 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code the continued investment of district funds with one or more of the following financial institutions: PNC Bank, the Pennsylvania School District Liquid Asset Fund, and any other appropriate FDIC-insured financial institution not specifically listed above in accordance with the collateralization requirements established by the Pennsylvania School Code during the period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30, 2020. Item number 12, approve the 2019-2020 fiscal year operating and administrative budgets for Forbes Road Career and Technology Center in the amounts of, for the operating budget, $6,505,203, which represents an increase of $143,146 or 2.25% over the prior year budget. The administrative budget in the amount of $1,481,039, which represents a decrease of $1,289,479 or 87.07% due to the previous fiscal year replacement of the roof on building number 2. Note, the district's portion of the administrative budget for the 1920 fiscal year is projected to be $43,552.53. The total combined 1920 fiscal year budget is $6,696,763 and represents a decrease of $1,146,333 or 14.62% from the total combined 18-19 fiscal year budget, and that is all depicted in Exhibit E. Item number 13, approve the renewals and premium payments for the following applicable district insurance coverage policies for the 1920 fiscal year as depicted below. Please note that none of these rates changed from the 18-19 fiscal year. So again, they were all rate holds. Item number 14, approve the final allocation amounts of federal title funds for the 18-19 fiscal year for the following programs and amounts as listed. And Title I, $731,552. Title II, $126,796. Title III, $17,040. And Title IV, $53,295. Total of title funds, $928,683. Item number 15, award the base milk bid year 1 for the milk services and related food items to Turner Dairy Farms Incorporated for the district's food service department during the 1920 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit F. Please note the district received only one sealed bid from vendors to provide the milk services and related food items. Item number 16, approve the award of the base bid in the amount of $202,575 and the two bid alternates specifically comprised of alternate number 1, $15,000, and alternate number 2, $24,182 for the Gateway High School partial roof recover project to C.E. Davis Contracting LLC in the total bid awarded amount of $241,757. Who was the lowest responsible bidder to meet the district's bid specifications for specified repairs to the applicable roof recover areas located in the high school roof as the capital repair project to be completed during the 1920 fiscal year as depicted in Exhibit G. Note the district received 2 sealed bids from contractors to perform the Gateway High School partial roof recovery work. The second sealed bid received by the district was from G&W Roofing and Construction, Inc., with a total amount of $418,000 for the base bid and the 2 bid alternates. Item number 17, I guess in lieu of conversation tonight, we'll be removing that item.
You take a drink, Paul, if you need to.
Yep, you want to take a break?
I'll try to move on. Thank you, though. Item number 18, approve the agreement for professional services with Eads Group Incorporated for engineering services in a retainer amount of $150 per month or $1,800 total for 1 fiscal year, and other engineering services as required, beyond the retainer services at the average hourly rates in effect at the time of the services incurred during the applicable reimbursable expenses during the 1920 fiscal year, and that's depicted in Exhibit I. Item number 19, approve the district's purchases and payments for the following department items during the 18-19 fiscal year. Specifically, Technology Department purchases, RPC Video Incorporated, GHS Auditorium upgrades, new projector purchased through CoStars in the amount of $32,850. For the Athletic Department purchases through E.H. Griffith Incorporated, 1 Toro Workman GTX cart with accessories for the trainer through CoStars in the amount of $10,173.83. Total of those 2 items is in the amount of $43,023.83. Again, the above items will be purchased and paid for during the 18-19 fiscal year instead of during the 19-20 fiscal year to reduce expenditures in the 19-20 fiscal year general fund budget. Additional purchases will be presented for board consideration and approval at the June board meetings. And specifically, we did review some of those items at our 2 previous Budget Finance Committee meetings. Specifically, what will be presented will be a number of technology purchases as we reviewed previously at those meetings. So just to provide that little bit of note that there will be additional items forthcoming.
Okay. Questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, George.
Mr. Short, on number 15 about the word of the milk bid, I don't see any figures there. What was your bid?
The bid's actually attached in item number F, at Exhibit F. It comprises of the milk bid and also various other food-related items, iced teas, and some of the other items that the department utilizes in their operations.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, welcome.
So anybody who wants to look at the details of all those bids can pull them up in the board policy agenda section, and they can see all the exhibits
Section F,
that
you'll
we're
be able to see
referring to.
exactly what Turner's provide, exactly what items we requested in their unit pricing for those items.
Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, is Michael out there?
Hey, Micah.
He's coming.
He heard.
I've been told my voice carries.
You gotta tell me.
Just quick, can you maybe, there's not a lot of information here. Can you explain what a $33,000 projector is for the auditorium?
Yeah, it's not just the projector in this case. The projector is about $12,000, another $3,000 for the lens. There's a screen in there for about $10,000, miscellaneous parts, and then installation costs. So it's,
the original system is so old, it just needs replaced.
yeah, the projector, we replaced the bulb in it twice, and at this point, it's not the bulb, it's actually the LCD in the projector. It's fading away, so no matter how bright the light source is, the picture's always faded. We've been using a little projector on the stage, which is actually brighter, but it's still difficult to read things on the screen.
Okay, and just rough estimate, the system we have there now is fairly old.
Yeah, I want to say it's approaching 10 years, I don't know the exact age, but the screen, for example, was there with the original renovation of that stage. So
Right.
that was original.
So would it be fair to say that this should last us about the same amount of time?
In fact, the projector is a laser projector, so there's no bulbs to replace ever. So it's estimated to last 20,000 hours. If it's run continuously, I mean, we wouldn't leave it on all the time, so it will last a long time.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Good question. Anybody else? Mr. Bova?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, well, that is, I don't think there's anything in section G. I think, is Jesse still there? Jesse's gone. Okay, I don't believe that there are comments on any non-agenda items, are there? I will make a call for that. Comments on non-agenda items? None? Okay, let's go to reports. Would you like to start us off?
Sure. Our students have been hard at work with the PSSAs and the Keystones starting up at the high school. They're very well prepared, ready to go, and look forward to seeing the results. So we're excited.
How about Mrs. Bungard?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Dr. Shaky?
Nothing. Thank you.
Dr. Rossi?
Thing at this time?
I think Dr. Schott. Mr.
Nothing-
Schott?
nothing further, thank you.
He's talked a lot tonight.
Sounds evil.
Dr.
It
Schott.
immediately makes you a villain.
Well, we know Dr. Shock.
Mrs. Crum?
Nothing at this time.
Okay.
Same here, nothing.
Mrs. Warning?
Micah?
Mike O'Brown?
We had the big discussion way back when on our scoreboard. I just wanted to let everyone know it is being used this evening at the playoff game with the lacrosse. This is the gator that they just had as a test, if you can see it. This is the actual lacrosse players that Mr. Stakunis and was working on, and they're able to live stream it up there, correct, Micah? Not live stream, but they're from the Pixelot.
Not to the scoreboard yet. That'll be coming for the.
He's got the pictures that he's taken and downloaded on that, yes, okay. And it's, until you see it in person, you just don't believe the size of this. And we've got several sponsors so far for the scoreboard, so with it being paid, this is gonna be additional income for them coming in. So, thank you to everybody that was involved. It's up and running and we'll be ready for graduation on the 29th.
By the way, Gateway is currently up 9-2 at the end of 3.
lacrosse?
In the lacrosse game.
It's our first playoff
It'll
game.
be their first playoff victory in team history.
Yes.
In the history of Gateway.
Not to interrupt into your.
No, that's okay. I was gonna bring it up. I just, was
Great.
gonna get to that, but thank you for saying it. And just a couple dates. Thanks, Mike, I appreciate it. Just tomorrow night and Thursday night, the high school orchestra will be doing their concert, and on Thursday, the band will be doing their concert at the high school. Saturday is our Kennywood picnic. We're hoping that we have good weather this week. And senior night will be the 23rd, and the year is coming to a wrap. And it's hard to believe that it's the end of the year, so just want to wish everyone good luck in playoffs. The boys will be in these, they keep canceling the game right now. It's Thursday for their playoff game, and just hopefully they can continue on. And that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Lepsovich?
Thank you. I want to thank Mrs. Sue Payne, the physical ed teacher at Marseille Middle, for letting my wife Nancy speaking to her classes for a whole week on dangerous drugs and abuse. It was a great success. Each child after it, a week later, wrote my wife each a personal letter to her telling her how much it affected them. And it was very touching and emotional for me and my wife. And also, I would like a speedy recovery to my wife, Nancy, on a recovery of a recent hospital visit. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Mr. Bova?
Thanks. I can't decide whether to talk about this or not. So a little question, does anyone know of, recognize these two students' names, Kendrick Castillo and Riley Howell? Does that ring any bells? These two young men died since our last meeting during school shootings. And I kept thinking about them since they happened. They happened in the same week. And I was thinking about the possibility of a student having to make that kind of decision. And I know that, you know, we have this little bully pulpit here, and we get to talk occasionally about things that matter to us. Y'all know that there was a large shooting in New Zealand not long ago, and it took New Zealand 27 days, I think, to enact legislative changes to attempt to do something about gun violence. If you want to track me down later and debate gun control or gun measures, you know, be my guest. But I'd like everyone to think about the fact that it's been 50-plus years since the University of Texas shooting, and we can't seem to even have a conversation about ways of making our kids as safe as possible. So we seem to be stuck because we can't find a perfect solution, so we try no solution. And I would just ask everyone to not forget these two guys, these two kids, and think about, you know, talking to your lawmakers about any step. You know, something as simple perhaps as buying back guns that people want to voluntarily give up. You know, maybe one less gun out there will accidentally shoot a 4-year-old and may not wind up on school grounds. You know, we don't have a clock up here that counts down till the next shooting, and we would all love to believe there's not going to be another school shooting. I don't know who here believes that's the case, and it certainly wouldn't be based on something our lawmakers have done. We at Gateway have done everything I think we can to this point. We have been in the lead on basically every security measure we can come up with, but I just think we have to demand more of our leaders. And, you know, if you don't believe in gun control, fine, come up with another solution, come up with something. And in the meantime, if you're of the persuasion, say a prayer for those kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bova. I don't think anybody wants to follow that.
That's what I do.
That was good. The only thing I can encourage just from my employment with the PA State House is that there is one other angle that is being looked at, and that is mental health. Mental health is getting a lot of focus from our state representatives and our senators because that is a factor in a lot of the school violence, in addition to your views on gun control, whether you're in favor or not. And we don't usually get into those issues on school board.
Sure.
But I think that I have confidence and hope that people will continue to find solutions for these tragedies. And I thank you for reminding us of the students who gave their lives, Jack.
Can I just make one comment? Am I allowed?
Of course.
I worked previously with the COPS program in Monroeville, and we had the gun buyback program. You get the elderly that bring in their guns. You're not going to get the guns from the young kids. And that's where it needs to be stopped, because they're finding them, they're getting them illegally, and, you know, one gun, every gun that we received, it was one gun off the street. So I wish there was a way that we could get them all off the streets, but we tried that way, and it was successful when they had it, so. That's it.
Mr. McIntyre?
I would just add, I wasn't going to say anything, but Mr. Bova, that was a powerful sentiment. Yeah, again, we don't know when the next one's going to be. I think I might be the only one in the room that can speak to actual personal experience from a school shooting. I was a sophomore in 1990, and I actually lived through an experience where there was a shooting within a few feet of me. Had a bullet very narrowly miss me, and it's not an experience I'd ever wish on any kid to have to go through. It's something that still haunts me. It was a very surreal experience. So I encourage anybody that has any suggestions, any ideas, and this is certainly has to be a multi-pronged effort through equity, improvements in equity, improvement in just communication, mental health, and obviously, you know, there's that gun control debate that I'm not even going to touch right now, but Jack's right, we need to be able to at least have the conversation, so, thank you.
Mr. Galtman?
I can't follow that, I have nothing.
Mr. Williams? would you
Nothing
like
this
to
evening.
close? Mr. Williams has voted no.
Nothing this evening.
All right, can somebody close on a positive note? Mr. Kalkstein, are you, Dr. Kalkstein, are you still with us?
I'm still here.
All right.
Mr. Ritter?
Sure, I have one. Bill, I sent you a little email. The seniors are going to have a presentation at the Robert Reed Auditorium. I forget the date of that. If you could, somebody could look that up. This is that night every year where the seniors, they receive awards or scholarships. May 23rd, Thursday. May 23rd, Thursday. And the parents come, and there's such a warm, you know, effusion to the students, all this work, and they get to go to college, and they get, you know, to stand up before their uncles and aunts and walk across the stage one by one, and the awards are announced. So I was wondering if we were going to be able to videotape that, because a lot of people can't attend that evening, and it would be a wonderful way just to showcase this student's going to Pitt, this student's going to Vanderbilt, this student's going to Harvard. Here's a wonderful scholarship that somebody get. Here's a scholarship that's offered by somebody to some student. There's so many details into that. I think it would be nice to record it, play it through a couple times during the summer, so that people who are in the military overseas, they can't see their son or daughter graduate, their nephew or niece. They can, you know, when they come back to visit, they can see that and just give their nephew or niece a pat on the back again and again over the summer.
Okay, thank you. That reminded me of a positive note that we can close on. Two things. The positive note is that prom went off without a hitch. We had a great prom promenade.
There was
I
dancing.
was there, Mrs. Warning was there. We saw the kids in their beautiful dresses and their tuxedos and some really fancy shoes that I saw, and we had a beautiful prom with no incident. So congratulations to all the students for doing so well, looking so sharp. And I also want to give well wishes to our student Kenyatta, who was injured in an auto accident. Best of luck to him and a speedy recovery to Kenyatta. Do you have anything else to add before?
Just wanted to thank teachers and staff for helping assist with the prom, the decorations, and the supervision, because without their efforts, I'm not sure it would go that well.
That's true.
Did anyone go to the musical? Wasn't that great?
Yes.
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 Love the musical.
Yep.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
That's what